This episode of Pomcast is sponsored by Chrysalis Yarn Company, a one-woman hand-dyed studio owned by Mindy in Dallas, Texas. Mindy's small batch studio offers artisan hand-dyed yarns in playful, enthusiastic colours, from the brightest neon rainbow hues to the moodiest tonals.
Mindy strives to offer more than just pretty yarn, though. Chrysalis Yarn Company is about inspiration as well as aspiration. It's about unlocking the creative capacities in every fibre enthusiast.
Taking soft and delicate strands of promise, Mindy transforms them into twisted hanks of art through the magic of colour. She asks you to imagine the incredible potential of each unique skein. You are the architect of its imaginative transformation.
Visit chrysalisyarns.com or Chrysalis Yarns Co. on Instagram to see Mindy's amazing skeins. Naturally, we're thinking of issue 40, and we're totally enamoured with their new Dreamscape collection, which shares the same theme as our latest issue. We can just imagine a pair of Revelry socks in the pastel sugar and daydream colourways.
Chrysalis Yarns, where every skein is a chrysalis bursting with potential. What will yours become?
Hello! Hi and welcome to Pomcats, the podcast brought to you by Pom Pom Quarterly Magazine. I'm Sophie Heathscott and joined, as I often am, as I always am, with Lydia Gluck. Welcome.
Hi, Soph.
I feel like I'm introducing you more officially because you're actually in a different time zone to me this time.
Yeah. Joined from across the world, Transatlantic.
Live from San Francisco, it's Lydia Gluck.
Yes, I am in San Fran, which is pretty fun. And I was in Austin last week with the wonderful Meghan Fernandez.
I was going to say, we have so much to catch up on. We were talking just before this recording, and I was like, okay, don't tell me that, because we've got to save it for the podcast, save it for the fill-in with the podcast peeps, because you and Meghan have been in Austin, which is our US Pom location, photographing, not personally photographing, but you were on hand for the issue 41 photo shoot.
Yes, indeed we were, which was a slightly longer than usual photo shoot because it's going to be a slightly bumper issue. Ooh, because it's our 10-year anniversary issue, which is wild. I can't believe it's been 10 years.
I know. I feel like this is the first time we really talked about it on the podcast and about it being the anniversary year, but I guess people are going to start hearing about this a lot.
They sure are. Or some people might have already figured it out. I had a text message from a friend of mine the other day who just texted being like, oh my gosh, 10 years of Pom Pom, congratulations, I'm so proud of you, which was really sweet. And for a moment I was like, did we announce this somewhere? Because I know she follows us on Instagram. And then she texted being like, I was just looking at my Pom Pom tote bag, like one of the old ones that says established in 2012.
Very good.
And she had deduced that it had been 10 years.
That's some good maths there. That's the kind of person you want to have around with maths like that. That's good.
Exactly, especially for the knitting maths every now and then, you know, need the maths helpers.
Yeah, I do remember being in the old studio with Amy, who we work with, years ago, like maybe 4 years ago, where she worked out what issue it would be for the 10th anniversary. And for some reason I was like, that's just too far away. I can't even think of that actually being reality. The maths that you presented me with. And I was like, oh yeah, we're around issue 40. So here we are.
Here we are, exactly, doing the issue 41 shoot. So that is why, one of the reasons why I am in America / was in Austin. So I was there for the photo shoot. And then I had the great pleasure of teaching at the Hill Country Weavers retreat, which was my first ever time teaching at a retreat. And I had a wonderful time. I really enjoyed it. I got to meet lots of very wonderful knitting people and see lots of very nice yarn. And both of those things are a great joy. And people seemed to enjoy my classes, which was very rewarding. I really enjoyed it. And it has been nice to be in a place that is different to the place I have been for the past 2.5 years or whatever it is.
I can understand the excitement with that. When you say retreat, I've never been to a knitting retreat. I imagine people just lying around on skeins of yarn and knitting all the time. Maybe there's fluffy robes involved. I don't know. What is a knitting retreat?
I feel like the knitting retreat you're imagining should be made a reality.
Yes.
Because it sounds very relaxing. this retreat involves classes by lots of wonderful knitting teacher types, including Gudrun Johnson, whose book we published very recently. And there was Mary Jane Mucklestone, well-known Fair Isle knitting knitter, and there was also Vincent Williams of Vesuvius Crafts, who was teaching very exciting like knitting and crochet related classes. Unfortunately, I didn't take any classes, so my understanding of the classes is based purely on the names of them. But it was wonderful to meet him. And there was Dawn Barker, lots of wonderful knitting types. And of course, Hill Country Weavers is a shop that we have an extra especially good relationship with, just because Meghan lives nearby and has taught in the store. And so, yeah, they're kind of like, they're definitely her local yarn store. And so they are one of Pom Pom's local yarn stores. And it was very nice to get to spend a bit more time in the company of the wonderful people who run the shop. Because, of course, many of them were helping out at the retreat, working hard, I should say. Helping out makes it sound like they were like very relaxed. I mean, they were like relaxed in that they were very wonderful to spend time with, but they were definitely busy bees that whole weekend.
I bet.
Yeah, so there was lots of classes, and then a wonderful marketplace, and the retreat was in a kind of resort just outside of Austin on a lake, which I can't remember the name of, unfortunately, but it was a nice lake, and there was a pool and nice food, and there was like people knitting in the bar in the evening and so on. They were very careful about their COVID guidelines, and everybody was wearing masks indoors, so that was good too. And yeah, it was really nice. Very much recommended.
So what was the classes you were teaching?
So I taught 2 classes. One of them was called Exploring the Potential of Top-Down Raglans, and that was based on Ready Set Raglan. And that was a lot of fun. Kind of looked through the different raglan seams that we have in the book and talked about different variations and colour combinations, and did a bit of swatching and a bit of colouring in, which was a lot of fun to test out, colour blocking ideas and so on. And the other class I taught was about the technical illustrations that I do for Pom Pom, so the little tutorial drawings, which most recently you can mainly see in like Knit How and Ready Set Raglan. So it was about understanding your knitting better through these illustrations. So we did some colouring in, which was a lot of fun, and tracing, and just talking about the process of converting a kind of smooth motion that operates in 3D into discrete steps in 2D, and the kind of things that you have to think about to do that.
That sounds like a pro line from a class. Like, I'd pay for a class just to hear that. Like, oh, interesting. Smooth motion in 3D, sure.
It's like, yeah, that's me when I'm knitting. I'm a smooth motion in 3D.
Definitely. That was fantastic. Well, how exciting that you could make this trip and meet all these people. How were the people in your class? Were they well behaved?
They were extremely well behaved, and really wonderful company. Everybody was very thoughtful and attentive, and I learned lots of things. It's the thing that people always say when they're teaching, like, I learned so much from my students, and I really did.
Nice.
It's
good.
true.
Symbiotic relationship, is that what we want?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes, so it's been a lot of fun. And now, of course, as mentioned, I'm here in San Francisco with Eli, who people who've been listening to the podcast since the beginning will know used to do the production for this podcast and write music for it, and was part of our 5-year podcast, Pomcast Live celebrations. And he now works in the podcasting industry. So
we gave him a leg up. You think, who taught him all he knows about podcasts?
So I'm here visiting him and his family, who are living here at the moment, which has been a really delightful add-on to my American adventure. Yeah, but soon I will be back in the UK. Just a couple more days now, which I feel is good. I'm sort of getting to that point where I'm like, I'm still very much enjoying being here, but I'm ready to be at home.
It's nice to go away. It's nice to come back. That's how I feel about it. So
exactly. But anyway, enough about me. How have you been, Soph?
Oh man, well, I did something today which I was very excited about. I've literally just rushed back to do this recording. But I loved hearing about your US travel because yeah, to feel like I'm traveling vicariously through you, and I want to ask more about the issue 41 shoot very soon. But I've just come back from seeing a talk by Lorna Hamilton-Brown, who was part of an exhibition at the Crafts Council, and they had an exhibition called We Gather, which was lots of different female artists of Black and Asian heritage, sort of talking about their process of crafting and their work. And Laura Hamilton's talk was about her symbolism in her piece. I don't know if people have seen it recently, or maybe through Instagram or anything. And we'll definitely have a link to that in the show notes. It's her knitted imaginary front cover of a knitting magazine, and it's this really powerful image of a black knitter making a scarf, and the detail on it is amazing. She machine knit this and did lots of duplicate stitch over it to bring out all these different details of the piece, like the woman's amazing afro and the little detail of the barcode and all these things. So yeah, it was a talk about her process as a maker, and as a, you know, her life as a black artist as well, and a black knitter, and this importance of saying that black people do knit and this is their story. So I feel very fortunate that I was able to like get a ticket and go see that. And yeah, it felt like amazing to be in a community of knitters and listening to her. I just saying the word knitter a lot. There were crocheters as well, and she did touch on crochet a lot as its own special art form. But yeah, I thought it was just an amazing way to spend my morning. So that's what I've been doing.
That does sound like an amazing way to spend a morning, and I'm looking forward to. I saw on the Pom Pom WhatsApp group
Yep.
that you had shared some things on there, but I haven't really looked at them yet because it is only 8:30 in the morning here, and I will be honest, I was a little sleepy before we started recording this podcast. I haven't quite looked at the pictures properly yet, but I'm looking forward to looking at those, and I feel like you are traveling vicariously through me, and I through you got to attend this talk, and it sounds really wonderful. And it's the last weekend of that exhibition,
It is, unfortunately. So yeah, I wish I could have gone earlier and talked about this earlier as well, but the talk that I went to specifically was due to happen before Christmas, and then that got moved because of Omicron concerns. So yeah, it's now happened in the last weekend. But yeah, the talk has been recorded by the Craft Council. That's going to be on their website in a couple of weeks. So we'll definitely make sure like we put a link to that either on the show notes, or you follow Pom Pom on Instagram. You'll find it there probably, and make sure we share that again.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, that's good. So yeah, I'm glad that I'll be able to hear that bit at least.
So now on to news. I feel like we've had a good healthy dose of us news, which kind of blends into the pom world and knitting world. But you know, I'm just really excited to hear about the issue 41 shoot.
Well, it was an absolute delight. It was, I mean, Meghan has just such excellent photo shoot organizing skills. It was, and you know, because I'm not based in Austin, it was, you know, a bit harder for me to be involved in the organization of this shoot. But Meghan absolutely smashed it, and it was just like a really wonderful day and a half that we were shooting with the photographer Laura Morsman, who has shot many an issue of Pom Pom. And of course, we had Gail, who is one of our US-based team members. She was on hand, just taking care of everyone, making sure that we had coffees, and she did some absolutely outstanding stills styling of yarn and similar. And we had incredible models and a wonderful makeup artist, and the location was this like old schoolhouse in a kind of little tiny town just outside of Austin, like a sort of 40-minute drive outside of Austin, that was next to like a fire station that I desperately wanted to get a photo of, but because photo shoot days are often so busy, I like, you know, we drove past the fire station. I was like, I must get a picture of that, because I've like never seen anything that looked like it. I mean, American people probably like, boring, that's like a rural firehouse thing. But I was like, what is that?
What made it so special then?
It was just like a kind of like metal almost like triangular building. It looked like kind of like a metal barn. I don't know. Maybe I'll try and find a picture of something similar and show it to you. But yes, it was an old school house that has been sort of done up as like a venue slash photo shoot location. And it was very beautiful. And we had wonderful sunny weather for both days, which was good because it had been quite grey and drizzly and even quite snowy in Austin. So we got really, really, really lucky with the weather. And of course, the knits were the real stars of the shows because many of them I hadn't seen until I arrived at the shoot. I was, of course, transporting some of them. So those ones I was more familiar with. But yes, it's very exciting. We've got a great lineup for that for issue 41, being the special issue that it is. And it's always such a joy to see the knits and crochet items come to life finally, because we've always been working on these issues for quite a long time. You know, everything leads up to this point where we've done the photo shoot and then we go into layout and production and so on. And, you know, we spend a lot of time like looking at the sketches initially and then looking at colors and then imagining those colors in the form of real knits, and then the samples arrive and that's really exciting. And sometimes we try them on, I'm not gonna lie, you know, it does happen.
I mean, yeah, definitely. It's a lot of trying on.
But it's so different seeing them on the models in the location and getting to kind of see the vision come to life. And yes, we're very, very excited, as you can probably tell, to share this issue because it's special in so many different ways.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm excited for everyone to see. I mean, you've seen a fair few sneakity peekadies.
I mean, that I have, and I guess it's interesting talking about it now. We've got to kind of hint about a lot of stuff because the previews are going to be coming in mid-April, and of course we will be shouting it from the rooftops when we do have those. But yes, it's sort of lots of familiar names like Pomcats who we've worked with before. It's going to be 13 pieces, so that little, you know, what's an average Pom issue, like 9 or 10? So we're like giving you guys a little boost in numbers.
Yes, and there's other special things about the issue too that will be revealed. But in the meantime, we should also remind that issue 40 is out. Can't forget about spring.
Oh my gosh. So spring that's out in the world. The on sale date has been celebrated. And yeah, our spring issue 40 is the latest issue of Pom and has a special part in our hearts as well, just like every issue. So
it does. And if you like floaty mohair, which perhaps you do, then issue 40 is definitely the right place. If you don't, there's also wonderful things for you. Actually, that was also fun because I got to see the issue 40 samples, which most of which I hadn't seen IRL because the shoot happened in Austin and I couldn't go. So it was really cool to see lots of things there. And because we had in the marketplace at Hill Country Weavers Retreat, we had like a little stand with pom-pom publications and pom-pom samples. And I marvelled again at the Serif socks from issue 40 by Marie Regnier, which are these wonderful ribbed socks. And they have like really clever construction on the heel so that the ribbing continues, and wonderful colour blocking. And they're in mohair and a sort of more regular like wool sock yarn, or, you know, you don't have to use the mohair, but we have those samples in the mohair. But they just, because they're entirely ribbed, they just look so funny when they're not on a foot. They look like little Quentin Blake. Was it you that said they look like little
it was Alice,
Quentin?
yeah.
Oh, Alice, yeah, said they look like Quentin Blake feet.
Yeah, they're like funny little pencils. I always think like tiny little twigs.
Yeah, but it was, yeah, it reminded me that I definitely want to make them because I had a good old look at those.
For the comedy factor alone, you've got to have them, you know.
I'm often in things for the comedy factor, so.
I mean, why are we doing this? I mean, come
on. Comedy factor.
Well, speaking of socks, and then speaking of knitting, but I was just wondering, we haven't for a while had a chat about what we've been knitting or working on. I wonder if you have any good travel knitting, and I'm wondering if it's socks, basically.
I think if you were to bet, placing a bet on socks would have been a really safe bet, but you would have lost, Sophie. I'm sorry.
My life savings, not again.
Oh, gone. You're like, all Lydia does is make socks. Sometimes other things in addition to socks, but always socks.
But when you're traveling, especially.
Exactly. But here's the thing, Sophie. I promised my sister, well, I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers, and they are steadily turning 30. They're all younger than me, and they are, taking it in turns to turn
That's
30.
very good
That's
yeah.
very good of them, yes. And so for their 30th birthdays, I decided for each of them, I would make them like a jumper, basically, or like a knitted item that was of size, because I'm too selfish a knitter to be constantly making jumpers for all of my siblings and parents, and there's family members everywhere. But I thought 30th birthday, milestone. So I made my sister Eleanor a few years ago. I made her a jumper, and then Thea turned 30 recently. Actually, it wasn't that recently anymore because I'm very behind schedule. This is part of the story. And I said to her, "Happy birthday! Here is your voucher for one custom knit item." And Thea is a prop maker and painter decorator, and she drew the jumper that she wanted, and she sent me a picture of it, and I agreed to make this jumper. And it involves intarsia, which is fine, but is a little more complicado than the things I've been knitting more recently. And I agreed to make it. Then I had my repetitive strain injuries in both elbows, so couldn't really knit, let alone a whole jumper, for quite a long time. Finally, I'm in a position to be knitting again. And I had bought the yarn for this jumper. I finally, I've written the chart, adapted a pattern. I was like, okay, I'm ready. And I realized that the only way I was going to actually start this jumper was by making it the only thing I had with me on this trip to knit. And it's worked.
Okay, good. Yeah.
It's a happy ending. It's okay. So I'm now sort of halfway through the front, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the intarsia. And I am now like, wow, think of all the intarsia things I'm going to make from now on. It's not, in some ways, it's not the perfect travel knitting because it's a bit fiddly. I don't think I'll really be able to do it on the plane. But luckily, I have acquired some yarn while I've been here.
Phew.
You'll be pleased to know. Phew.
I'm curious, is the intarsia, is it a pattern or is it like a picture? Is it like a comedy, like giant animal print or something?
It's kind of the simplest intarsia. I've made it sound like really complicated and scary. The thing is like most of the jumpers I've been making recently have been Raglans, knit in the round, top down, sort of very little of my thinky brain involved. Whereas this jumper will be knit in pieces because that's just a little bit easier. You can do intarsia in the round, but I decided not to. It's basically like in 2 colors, and there's a kind of, the colors meet kind of at the front of the jumper, and they like have a sort of wiggly line.
Like a mirage emerging in the front of the
Yeah.
jumper.
Yeah, I feel like it's really not it's not the most complicated one. I've probably made it sound almost
I
impossible.
think there's definitely sounds like there's work in it. There's no merit in it being more difficult than anything else.
No, I suppose also the thing is that there isn't a pattern for it. So I sort of had to dig up my pattern writing brain and come up with something suitable. But it's been really fun, actually. And it's kind of, it's been nice to have something a little more challenging, because I think I have been making less challenging things. And again, like you say, there's no merit in either direction. I've been leaning on my comfort knits, which are very useful. Well, when I could knit, like when my elbows were allowing me to, I was going for like, socks, for example. So it has been really nice to remember that I also like a bit more of a challenge sometimes when I'm knitting.
Nice, exciting. And how lucky for your sister to get something so...
By the time I finish it, she'll be like, I don't like this anymore.
Well, hey, who's got a new intarsia jumper then?
Hello. But what have you been making?
I mean, to use the phrase, not using my thinky brain, which I think is the official term you used.
Maybe I'll get a t-shirt with that on it.
Yeah. It would be good for a pencil or something, like thinky brain pencil. Non-thinky brain pencil. I have been making a raglan, which is also a gift for someone else. A gift for my husband, which I was going to do for Christmas. No comment on the timeline that it is now, so that's fine. And I am really enjoying just doing exactly the same that's in the book because, as you know, and other people may remember, the POM team, made a lot of the samples. Not all, some of them we did with the sample knitters. We knitted the samples that are shown in the book. And I made the brown one, which is Merywen. It's a lovely, like, rich chestnutty brown in the book. And he has now adopted that jumper, and he said for him it's his perfect jumper, much like Raglans are, so versatile and enjoyable by all shapes and sizes. So I'm just doing exactly the same as that in a different colour. And
What colour?
it is a gorgeous grey by The Uncommon Thread, who is a dyer based in Brighton. And it has tiny little, like, flecks in it. The colour is called Spectre, and it's just got like a little subtle, like, multicolored fleck. Unusual. I thought not something I thought he would go for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I don't know David as well as you do, of course, but I would not have guessed that. If I was a betting woman, I would have lost.
Yeah. Well, we're both penniless. Sorry. Yeah, he sort of likes more kind of like a darker green or like a maroony or a richer brown. So yeah, and I'm enjoying, like, it's beautiful yarn to work with, nice simple jumper. So yeah, that's feeling a lot of love for Raglans. And also one of my go-to comfort knits is making baby hats. I like to make them as like little palette cleansers in between things, or if I'm going somewhere and I don't want to take the jumper, I make lots of baby hats. And then, such is the world, people are so often expecting babies, and I'm like, you're having baby? Here, have a hat, and it's ready to go.
I'm just imagining you like throwing them like frisbees and then just like landing on little babies' heads.
Pretty much. And then people are like, this is a great hat. And I'm like, yeah, what do you expect from me? I'm a knitter. I know what you want. You want the great hat. Like, it covers its ears. Yeah.
You're like, of course it does. I got you. Oh, that's cute.
So we like to end this chat episode, the armchair episode, if you will, transatlantic armchairs that we are. We like to end it with some fun recommendations or something we're excited about. Lydia, what's on your mind, excitement-wise?
What's on my thinky excitement brain?
My thinky brain might have not thought of the words at the end of that sentence. I don't know if anyone noticed how I started that out.
I feel like we're both a little rusty somehow, even though we have been back doing the podcast
I know.
for a while, but a little rusty over here. That's okay. It's all part of the charm, isn't it? It's a charmy rusty bench. Oh God. This is an aside, but I was walking in a nice park in San Francisco, and I saw a bench that had, benches often have plaques on them, dedicated to people, and there was a bench that said it was dedicated to nice people from the nice family, and it was maybe the best bench I've ever seen. Was that what it said? Something like that. It was just nice. It's a
nice bench.
It was a great bench. I have a photo. We could maybe even include it somewhere.
I love it. Yes.
So I was excited about that, but also well, I've had the great pleasure of being able to visit some art galleries while I've been in San Francisco. That's something that I really wanted to do while I was here. I went to the De Young Museum, which has a permanent collection of some of Ruth Asawa's work. She was a Japanese-American artist who spent, I think, most of her life in San Francisco. I don't think she was born in San Francisco. I don't remember now, but she certainly lived here for a long time. And she made these incredible, they're like looped wire sculptures, and I was trying to.
They're like orbs, aren't they?
Yeah, they're like sort of suspended sculptures. I took some nice pictures, which perhaps we can include if people are interested. So these amazing kind of hanging wire sculptures that create beautiful shadows that kind of often end up being part of the experience of viewing the pieces, but also as a sort of fabric textiley makey person, I was trying to lean as close as I could without getting told off, and having a look at the way the structures were created. And they're just like I found them very kind of peaceful to be around, and also Ruth Osawa has a really interesting life story, which is worth looking into. And I also think actually that there's going to be a retrospective of her work in the UK this year, I think in Oxford. Okay. I'll double check that. I think because I was listening to a podcast about her, and they were also saying that her work is actually often not viewed outside of the places where it's sort of hung permanently because it's really hard to transport, apparently. Anyway, so I got to see her work in real life finally, which was wonderful. And what else did I see? I saw all sorts of very exciting things. I also went to the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, or the SF MoMA,
Nice.
as we like to call it, us cool art people.
Yep.
And I saw some early Matisse paintings, which I was really blown away by. I think he's going to be a hit, Matisse. I think he might make it. Yeah,
nice.
That's my
That's your hot tip.
And they have some Frida Kahlo paintings. They have a Diego Rivera mural, which is just absolutely astounding. Yeah, I can't really remember now all the different wonderful things I saw. And there were lots of artists that I hadn't come across before whose work I was blown away by. And it was just really nice to be, walking around, looking at the arts. And I spent a lot of time in both shops, of course, in the museum shops. Because
it's through the gift shop.
Exactly. It was a lot of fun. I got a lot of postcards. And that was really great. So I guess I was excited about those things. I realized they're not necessarily the most visitable or accessible to a lot of our listeners, but hopefully hearing people being excited about art is a nice thing to listen to.
I always love to hear about the arts. You've got me excited. I remember there was a period in lockdown where my dad had shared a link to something for a virtual exhibition, and it was like a big mix of being like, oh, I'm so happy I can see this online, but also like a feeling of gratitude of when I could look at things, and then like that excitement of like, I'm sure everything will come out one day and I can like go see something again in person. So it kind of brings that feeling of like weird longing and excitement, and I don't know, lots of different things.
Yeah, actually, I also, because I saw a Leonora Carrington as well, and I'd never seen any of her work in real life, and that was very exciting. I feel like I really do feel the difference being in the presence of the thing that the person made with their hands, and you're like, they also looked at this, and I'm looking at it now.
Yeah, and I feel like I think we're talking about like big, to use the phrase, broad brushstrokes, talking about art in like the bigger context of big galleries or like institutions of art and culture. I feel like locally I've sort of seen more things, especially like at the moment in the UK, everything's like in a period, I say opening up again. It's in that period of people sort of, I feel like reawakening and sort of saying, okay, great, what can we do in this community? That I've seen more of these, like local art things, like local makers doing open studios and like art trail kind of things. And I think, yeah, it's worth sort of reiterating that that's something I'm getting excited about, seeing all those things and thinking like, okay, what can I get involved with that's happening with me here, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I wish I had done a bit more research into seeing maybe some smaller exhibitions, but I think when you're so new to a place and you just have like no real context of
Yeah,
how or where to look at these things, I was like, I'm gonna go for the big the big institutions for now.
sure.
But I think when I get back to Norwich, that's something I've also been really enjoying, is seeing smaller exhibitions. And also, I guess because I am at art school, I see the work of my peers nowadays, now that we're on campus a lot more, and that is really wonderful as well.
Nice. I mean, even just I was saying, bringing it back to knitting, even just like a knitting group, I feel like being to go. Like I went to a knitting shop with a knitter friend the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is just so jazzed to be hanging out with you," and like being like, "What about this color?" She's like, "Maybe more of an orange," you know? Like, yeah, that was.
Oh, you're right. It's so fun. Which reminds me, I went to a knitting shop yesterday.
Oh yeah,
I went to Imagine It because it turns out that where I'm staying with Eli, it's a 3-minute walk from Imagine It.
I mean, it'd be only rude not to. I mean, come on.
So I popped in there yesterday, and yeah, it was just like, I was like, there's so many yarns I haven't seen before. And I bought a yarn that I've never seen the likes of before, which is a neoprene yarn.
Oh,
What?
what is it like? Like so, like flat, like tape, like cut neoprene,
No,
or
it's not. It's like tubular.
Oh,
and it's Imagine It branded, so it's their yarn, and they had crocheted like a bowl out of it that was very cool,
wow.
and it only came in one color, which was this kind of like really fun, like really bright corally red color, which of course I'm very happy about. So I bought some of that with maybe a view to also making a bowl, or maybe some, I don't know, coasters, or I don't know. I haven't decided yet, but I was just like, I definitely want to buy this yarn. I've never seen
Amazing.
anything like it.
I feel like
Yeah.
maybe a bag or something could be cool with that, like some sort, like a
Yeah.
market bag for your veg and stuff. Mm.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's definitely got some potential. So I'm really excited to have discovered that. And the wonderful staff at Imagine It were very, very friendly and lovely. And it seems like a wonderful shop.
Nice. I feel like I wish we were, like, eventually throughout this whole podcast we would have like shouted out every local yarn shop possible. So and we've got 2 down
Yeah.
this episode. Fantastic. All right. Well, I wanted to end with a little rec for a book that I'm reading at the moment, which is The Well Gardened Mind, which is a book by Sue Stewart Smith. The little tagline is The Restorative Power of Nature. And I'm about halfway through it, and I got this book for Christmas, and it's a beautifully written book about her research into the power of gardening and being out in nature and green spaces, but more specifically, how gardening is. I mean, basically, you read the book and it's like there's no reason why you wouldn't want a garden to be able to like take care of something, to have the restorative power of plants and vegetables and fruits, flowers, everything. And she uses a lot of really interesting case studies where it's working with people who are recovering from PTSD, or inmates at different prisons, and just how these people were given, I say, given a new life, growing from all this experience, to use the word growing in such an operative way. And it's really, I keep feeling really moved by so many bits of this book. So even if you're not a gardener, because so many of the references are to these case studies where people weren't gardeners, they didn't think gardening could offer them anything, and then to be healed from such trauma that they had, like certain situations, like recovering from a war situation or being in combat, and yeah, I'm just really enjoying it.
Sounds really good. Sounds like a very, and I know that you are partial to a little gardening as well.
I am, and this has like really got me amped up. I'm like, why am I just in the garden every day, like doing more?
Maybe it'll get me in the garden. I've not been historically particularly good at doing gardening.
I can. Well, you read this book, you never know. I'll make a bet. But there's something very beautiful. She says there's a particular chapter I'm reading right now about flowers, and how like our love of flowers is that like tied into sort of this whole theory of. And she's a psychoanalyst, the writer as well, so it's interesting, like building on her sort of medical training, and flowers as a symbol of beauty, but also life and loss, and how we can appreciate life because flowers die.
Mm,
That cycle.
that's so good. I feel like I'm getting back into reading books again
Mhm.
and finding it, like remembering how much I enjoy it and how different it feels, at least for me, um, to listening to things. I feel like my ears could do with a rest every now and then, so reading is good.
I mean, is that at the end of the podcast then? Is that as
But yeah, but also definitely listen to this podcast.
after you've rested your ears, get back online and
Exactly. Oh no, talking people out of listening. No, definitely listen.
I mean, I think that is actually a good point to stop. So we just want to end but with saying thank you to Chrysalis Yarn Company, who are our wonderful sponsors again for this episode. You can check them out on Instagram. That's Chrysalis Yarn Co. And all their amazing yarns and beautiful colorways are on their website, chrysalisyarns.com. As always, we have all the links in the show notes, so check them out on our blog if you want to check out anything that we've talked about. And you want the linkies, we make the linkies for you, so it's nice and easy.
Yes, indeed. Well, I guess all that remains to say now is goodbye. And the next time we record, we will probably both be in the same country.
I know. Well, this was exciting doing this for the first time in different countries. So, yay for us. Sounded no different to anyone else, but there you go.
I know. I wonder if we could have been like, ooh, sneaky. No, there's no point. But yes, it's been very fun to catch up on this lovely Saturday morning.
Indeed.
And we look forward to bringing you more Pomcasts very soon.
Take care, folks. Bye.
Bye!
Pomcast is produced by Lydia Gluck and Sophie Heathscott, along with the team at Pom Pom Quarterly magazine. You can buy your copy of the magazine and subscribe too in our online shop. That's pompommag.com/shop.
Big thanks, of course, to Eli Block, whose house I am in at the moment, for creating the original music for this show and for being an essential part in creating this podcast and a wonderful friend.
Thanks, Eli, for hosting Lydia for this episode.
Indeed.
And thanks as always to Meghan Fernandez, co-creator and editor of Pom Pom Quarterly. And thanks to the whole Pom Pom team, fabulous team working behind the scenes who help us all get this out on time. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and why not leave a review? You know how many stars we want. Send any feedback or ideas to podcast@pompommag.com and don't forget to keep in touch with us via the podcast group on the Pom Pom Ravelry forum.